3,000 pillars of light. The end of physics is mathematics, the end of mathematics is philosophy, the end of philosophy is theology. In a conference room, an old professor uttered these words,
his audience of experts displaying a range of complex emotions on their faces. The more than 100 people present were the nation's leading authorities, representing cutting-edge technology and the pinnacle of human scientific achievement. However,
a profoundly unscientific event cast a shadow over their hearts. Ancient Mayan mythology foretold that in December 2012, 3 consecutive days of darkness would engulf the world, heralding the apocalypse.
Even schoolchildren scoffed at this claim. Mainstream scientists worldwide found no evidence of any threat related to 2012. Reality, however, proved a harsh slap in the face. On December 23rd, 24th, and 25th, 2012, the sun and moon went dark.
And the legendary 3 days of darkness arrived as predicted. Despite artificial lighting, boundless panic swept the globe in those 3 short days. 3 days later, the darkness lifted and the sun rose as usual.
Before humanity could celebrate its survival, an even more bizarre phenomenon appeared. 3,000 pillars of multicolored light mysteriously materialized across major human settlements worldwide. In eastern China, 100 such pillars appeared,
each in one of the country's most densely populated cities. These pillars of light, 12 meters in diameter, plunged into the earth at one end and soared into the heavens at the other. They radiated a spectrum of colors: red, orange, yellow, green,
indigo, and violet, exuding a mysterious allure, beckoning all living creatures within their reach. No one knew what lay within these pillars. Every human and animal that entered vanished without a trace, as if transported to another plane of existence.
Special forces from various nations were dispatched to investigate. But after a year, these daredevils vanished without a trace. Civilians, too, risked their lives, only to disappear into thin air. In the West, the reaction was intense. Religious believers,
in particular, were thrown into disarray. Some believed the pillars were a divine summons, a gateway to heaven. Others saw them as a devilish temptation, leading to eternal damnation. Within a year,
over 10 million people in North America disappeared into the pillars, with a similar number in Europe risking their lives to enter. Asia showed a stark division. In the West, many believed it to be a sign from Allah,
and tens of millions flocked to the pillars. East Asian nations, however, maintained a more scientific and cautious approach. China, the strongest power in the East, adopted an ambiguous stance, neither encouraging nor discouraging citizens from entering.
Online rumors circulated that the Chinese government held a keen interest in these enigmatic pillars. Besides sending in special forces, they allegedly secretly deployed a large number of death row inmates and life-sentenced prisoners as expendable pioneers.
Many civilians were also eager to take the plunge. Individuals hunted by enemies, those burdened by insurmountable debts, stock market failures contemplating suicide, those heartbroken and seeking oblivion, the terminally ill,
and those simply bored with life and seeking thrills all flocked to the multicolored pillars. 3,000 pillars of light instilled fear, yet offered a glimmer of hope to the desperate.
Over half the global population believed the multicolored pillars were a miracle. For things science couldn't explain, people could only attribute them to miracles. The end of physics is mathematics, the end of mathematics is philosophy,
and the end of philosophy is theology. Since the great calamity brought about by the 3 days of darkness, this sentence has become incredibly popular. People traced its origins and found some seemingly plausible examples. For instance,
Mr. Yang Zhenning once said, "The end of physics is philosophy, the end of philosophy is religion." The Chinese-American physicist, Sung Dao Li, also stated,
"The end of physics is aesthetics, the end of aesthetics is philosophy, the end of philosophy is theology." Regardless of the intermediary transitions, the ultimate end is always connected to theology. In this respect, there's another giant, a super idol.
Newton, the founder of universal gravitation, whose 3 laws are known to all. Newton experienced a typical transition through physics, mathematics, philosophy, and theology. Aside from his immortal achievements in physics,
he also published Metafluxions and Philosophiae Naturalis Principia Mathematica. Such a great mind, who lived to 80, spent 40 years exploring science, and another 40 years immersed in theology.
Newton used many seemingly scientific phenomena to prove the existence of God, even using the Bible to calculate the age of the earth at 6,000 years. This stark contrast makes it difficult for people to connect these things with this scientific giant.
Posterity generally believes that Newton's later years were a decline, a straying from materialism into idealism. But after the great calamity, a voice arose across the world. Perhaps Newton was right. It's just that the thought processes of this legendary giant,
with an IQ of 290, were too advanced. Ordinary mortals could not understand his world of thought. The 3,000 pillars of light sparked various speculations, yet they did not change the daily lives of most people.
As long as they stayed outside the beam of light, the lives of ordinary citizens went on as usual. In China, people went to work, went to school, and went on dates.
The world depicted on the evening news remained idyllic, city management officers were still as irritable as ever, and demolition crews continued their forceful demolitions. In their spare time, people discussed the mysterious seven-colored pillar of light,
speculating on the fate of those who entered it, life or death. January 1, 2014, Haicheng City, China. A young man frantically raced towards the seven-colored pillar of light in the city center. Beside him, a black dog ran at full speed. This tall,
handsome young man, clad in sporty winter wear, was Zhao Hao, a third-year student at Haicheng University's sports college. At Haicheng University, Zhao Hao was something of a legend, nicknamed Zhao Rishan. He was the captain of the university basketball team.
Possessing exceptional physical abilities, he could play both shooting guard and point guard, and even small forward. He had once brutally posterized a 2-meter-tall center, and was a famous swingman in the National University League. In his freshman year,
Zhao Hao reached the pinnacle of his life, winning the league's Best Rookie award and enjoying the affections of a campus beauty. Last season, sophomore Zhao Hao won the MVP award and attracted the attention of professional clubs,
making his life increasingly comfortable. Today he was out walking his dog and picking up a small gift for his girlfriend when tragedy struck. In a dark alley, he saw what he shouldn't have seen and heard what he shouldn't have heard. To be fair,
Zhao Hao never dreamed he would encounter such a thing. He was purely collateral damage. Behind him, two men in sunglasses were in hot pursuit. Zhao Hao, running at a speed that would rival his 10.8-second 100-meter dash, sprinted even faster.
He knew the two men in black suits and sunglasses, who looked like assassins, were carrying silenced pistols. He hadn't called the police. One of the culprits in the murder had accidentally stumbled upon was a police officer. Freeze, or I'll shoot.
The grim-faced officer drew his weapon and fired a warning shot, sending nearby pedestrians scattering in fear. Zhao Hao ignored him, using pedestrians and obstacles as cover as he ran like the wind. A deadly sense of crisis overwhelmed him.
A gut feeling that he wouldn't survive encountering either the men in sunglasses or the police officer. Unconsciously, he found himself near the multicolored light pillar. The area within 100 meters of the pillar was deserted.
This was typical of multicolored light pillars worldwide. People generally avoided them, detouring around them whenever possible. Zhao Hao himself had no interest in the pillar. As a high school physics failure, he hadn't even grasped the basics,
let alone explored the limits of physics. His aspirations were simpler: graduate from university, become a professional athlete, marry his girlfriend Vivi, and have children. But now, Zhao Hao didn't care about any of that. He had caused a commotion,
and numerous patrol officers were closing in from all directions. Desperate, Zhao Hao, in a blind panic, plunged into the multicolored pillar of light. His beloved black dog followed him in. The moment they entered the pillar, Zhao Hao heard gun.
Powerful bullets slammed against the light column, disappearing without a trace, like pebbles tossed into the sea. Zhao Hao had no time to check if had been hit. The world spun, plunging into darkness. A boundless,
overwhelming consciousness echoed in his mind like rolling thunder. Welcome to the world of evolution. Weakling, begin your evolutionary journey! Chapter 2, The Primal World. Towering trees, 10 men couldn't encircle their trunks.
Their branches and leaves blotting out the sun. Such trees, ubiquitous, formed a boundless primeval forest. In an inconspicuous corner of the jungle, Zhao Hao was utterly bewildered. Had he transmigrated to another world? Zhao Hao panted,
his eyes darting around. He had parents, friends, and a girlfriend who was the school beauty. Therefore, he couldn't accept this whole transmigration thing, carefully recalling the feeling of entering the pillar of light.
Zhao Hao had a strange sensation. It must have been some kind of spatial teleportation. According to online posts, the number of people worldwide who entered the colorful light pillars exceeded 100 million.
To say this was transmigration was a bit of an exaggeration. It couldn't possibly be a mass transmigration on such a grand scale, could it? Since he could be teleported here, he could probably be teleported back, right? Perhaps this was a dimensional space.
Zhao Hao tried to remain calm, contemplating a minuscule possibility. He checked his belongings, 100 and more curses bubbling up inside him. Whether to utter them or not, he couldn't decide normally.
People entering the colorful light pillars would have made ample preparations. Food, water, and spare clothes were essentials. Slightly more well-prepared individuals would also bring various exploration tools, including weapons such as knives and guns.
Zhao Hao's departure was a truly spontaneous adventure. His entire worldly possessions consisted of a mobile phone, a pack of cigarettes, a lighter, and 500 yuan in cash. The phone worked, but there was no signal or network connection.
It could only be used to take pictures or listen to music. The lighter also functioned. Zhao Hao lit a cigarette and contemplated life. The gnawing hunger pangs brought tears to his eyes before he even uttered a word,
let alone whether he could even escape this primeval forest. The mere problem of filling his stomach was enough to drive him to despair. Woof! A large black dog ran up from the distance, affectionately rubbing against Zhao Hao's legs. Big Black.
Zhao Hao was overjoyed, feeling a sense of kinship, like meeting an old friend in a foreign land. Vivi loved small animals a year ago. Xuanhuan and his girlfriend had adopted this mixed-breed stray dog. Even in this unknown, Dahai remained loyal,
filling Xuanhuan with immense gratitude. Woof! Dahai tugged at Xuanhuan's trousers, as if trying to pull him somewhere. Animals possess a sixth sense far surpassing humans. Xuanhuan chose to trust Dahai and followed in the direction the dog indicated.
10 minutes later, the man and his dog reached their destination. Before them lay a forest clearing, littered with fallen leaves, bearing the clear marks of a battle. Torn shreds of clothing were scattered nearby,
And a pair of expensive hiking boots lay on the ground, revealing a bloody, mangled human foot. Sis! Xuanhuan gasped, his hair standing on end. He hadn't witnessed the battle, but he could imagine its brutality undoubtedly.
Some human had been attacked by an unknown creature, torn to shreds, only the foot, protected by the sturdy boots, remaining intact. Xuanhuan even suspected that the victim hadn't just been killed, but possibly eaten. A wave of unsettling unease washed over him.
Xuanhuan quickly picked up a machete from the clearing. The machete was no ordinary blade. A renowned jungle knife used by American forces during the Vietnam War. Its 18-inch length earned it the moniker 18 Chop.
Its exceptional practicality continues to make it a favorite among wilderness survivalists and knife enthusiasts worldwide. The knife suggested the victim had been a highly skilled outdoor adventurer. Xuanhuan felt immense pressure,
Cold sweat trickling down his forehead. Even a professional like this was reduced to nothing but the soles of his feet. How long did he have to live? He had a gut feeling that the creature which killed the adventurer was definitely not human.
Fear stems from the unknown, and Xuanhuan could imagine what kind of thing had hunted the man. Woof! Dahai barked again, leaping excitedly towards a large tree. Xuanhuan looked closely. 3 meters up the tree trunk, he spotted a huge hawk.
He gripped the 18 Chop tightly and approached the base of the tree, carefully surveying his surroundings. Xuanhuan planted the machete in the ground and attempted to climb. At this moment, Xuanhuan, nicknamed the Devil Muscle Man on the field,
displayed his physical advantages. His jump was astonishing. He leaped up, grabbed the edge of the tree hollow with both hands, and easily climbed inside. The tree hollow was large, and a bulging backpack was placed inside. Xuanhuan opened the backpack,
and his eyes immediately welled up. Brother, what fate! Regardless of who the backpack's original owner was, Xuanhuan could only express his heartfelt gratitude at this moment. The backpack contained biscuits, canned food, mineral water, a compass, a lighter,
and a Swiss Army knife, exactly what Xuanhuan needed most. In addition, there were 2 sets of sportswear, 2 unopened pairs of brand new underwear, and 2 pairs of new socks still in their packaging. Looking further,
Xuanhuan deeply felt the professionalism of the backpack's original owner. He took out a small, book-sized first aid kit containing antiseptic alcohol, bandages, band-aids, and other emergency supplies.
In another plastic box were a bottle of shampoo and 2 bars of soap. Several tin boxes, similar in shape to cigarette packs, contained salt, chicken bouillon, and other cooking seasonings.
Xuanhuan pulled out a watch from the backpack. It not only displayed the time but also the date. Carefully checking the expiry date on the biscuits, a year away, Xuanhuan didn't hesitate. He tore open a box and devoured them. After eating and drinking his fill,
Xuanhuan took out the compass, attempting to find a way out of the primeval forest. He was soon dumbfounded. The compass needle spun wildly, unable to indicate a clear direction. Stay calm, brother. You have to stay calm. Xuanhuan forced himself to remain calm.
He pulled out a pen and a palm-sized notebook from the side pocket of his backpack. Wow, my dude. Seriously. You're actually keeping a diary like Uncle Li Feng. Xuanhuan opened the notebook and was quickly engrossed in its contents.
The further he read, the more serious his expression became. December 14, 2013. After a year of agonizing, I finally couldn't resist stepping into the colorful light pillars. What's inside those light pillars, I don't know, and I don't.
I'm prepared to die. December 15, 2013. I've arrived in a brand new world. A primeval forest larger than any nature reserve I've ever visited. The magnetic field here is chaotic. The compass is useless, for some reason.
I feel strange. December 18, 2013. This so-called evolutionary is unbelievable. I saw 2 strange beasts. After one beast devoured the other, it actually changed. I distinctly felt it growing stronger.
Could the communicated intention of the evolutionary path refer to evolution through constant killing and devouring? December 24, 2013. Damn it. Even the plants in this world are alive. And by alive, I don't mean just growing.
They attack humans and animals like man-eating plants. Today I met my first fellow human. Before I could even greet him, I witnessed him being strangled by a vine. A bizarre vine that squeezed him until he was covered in blood,
frantically absorbing his flesh and life force. Within minutes he was a corpse, his bones and skin eventually devoured by the vine. I'm terrified. This Christmas Eve is anything but peaceful. December 27, 2013.
I never expected a small bird flying overhead to attack me. I've been poisoned. This toxin is terrible. I feel like I can sense death calling. I've hidden half my remaining food in a tree hollow, hoping it might help someone who passes by later. December 28.
Am I going to die? It's so unfair. I see a giant wolf. Strangely, I feel compelled to fight it, like something in its body is drawing me in. It's death either way. Goodbye, my love. Chapter 3. Genetic absorption.
At the end of the diary, a name is signed, B. Dajin. This person was a somewhat famous figure on a hiking and outdoor enthusiasts forum, having traveled to many places both domestically and internationally.
Bai Dajin's true rise to fame among netizens stemmed from a public confession. One day before the Great Catastrophe, Bai Dajin made a heartfelt declaration of love on the forum. The recipient of this confession was named Zhang Dekai. You know how it is.
A man confessing his love to another man always sparks heated discussions online. During that period, many netizens were discussing two questions: just how open was Zhang Dekai, and just how closed was B. Dajin. No one expected that B.
Rejected by Zhang Dekai would enter the seven-colored pillar in utter despair. To Zhao Hao, whether B. Dajin was straight or gay was irrelevant. The dead deserved respect. Damn it, even the plants are alive. This tree hollow isn't going to swallow me whole.
After reading the diary, Zhao Hao shuddered, grabbed his backpack, and jumped out of the tree hollow. Shouldering his backpack, he tucked his folded Swiss Army knife into his pocket, then grabbed the 18-inch cleaver, and said solemnly to Dahai,
It's getting Dahai. Can you find a safe place for us to rest? Dahai looked at him in confusion, clearly not understanding. Zhao Hao chuckled wryly. His expectations of Dahai were perhaps a little too high. He made a decision.
Resolutely avoiding the plants in the forest and strode forward. After several hundred meters, Big Black let out a yelp and leaped suddenly into the air. Above Zhao Hao's head, a black vine twined around a tree branch suddenly moved.
Like a venomous snake coiling towards the back of his neck. Luckily, Big Black spotted it in time. Pouncing to clamp its jaws firmly onto the tip of the black vine, Zhao Hao broke into a cold sweat.
Wildly hacking at the vine with his machete 18 times in quick succession, chopping it into several sections, the black vine, which was indeed a living creature, let out a pained shriek. Zhao Hao, seizing the moment, dropped his backpack, jumped up,
and unleashed a furious barrage of chops on the nearby vines. Only when all the vines within a 10-meter radius were severed did he stop, drenched in sweat. Woof! Big Black suddenly barked excitedly, running over to pick up a section of vibrant green.
Life-filled vine and happily munching on it. Zhao Hao was dumbfounded. Usually, Big Black only ate meat and bones, refusing even dog food, yet today it had turned vegetarian. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. He saw something glittering at the base of the vine.
He used his knife tip to pry it out. It was a crystal, no bigger than a fingernail. Holding the tiny crystal in his palm, Zhao Hao felt a strange energy within it drawing him in. At that moment, a vast and immense thought echoed in his mind.
Activate E-level evolution technique capable of refining evolved creature crystals. Simultaneously, a surge of warmth flowed through Zhao Hao's body. The warm current followed a specific pattern, imbued with a profound and mysterious feeling.
Zhao Hao's gaze softened, falling into a state of blissful oblivion. He circulated the thing called the evolution technique, like a martial arts master in a wuxia drama performing meditative exercises, sitting cross-legged on the ground.
A faint white mist emanating from his body. During this process, the small crystal in his hand slowly diminished, its essence gradually absorbed by Zhao Hao. Successfully refined a primary primordial crystal, obtained 1 point primordial gene.
After a long while, the mysterious thought came again. The small crystal in Zhao Hao's palm vanished without a trace. He glanced at his luminous watch. He had spent a full 5 hours refining the crystal. It was now midnight, pitch black all around.
And he could not see his hand in front of his face. A chill ran down his spine, and a wave of fear washed over him. He was lucky to have Dahai lying beside him guarding him. Otherwise, during those 5 hours of refinement,
who knows what dangers he might have encountered. Standing up and stretching, Zhao Hao felt a strange mix of emotions. Having absorbed 1 point of primordial gene, he felt a slight improvement in his strength and speed. The improvement was subtle,
but the progress was palpable. It was like someone with only 10 yuan in their wallet suddenly finding 11 yuan. The increase wasn't huge, but the change was evident. Raw, suddenly. Dahai glared behind Zhao Hao, letting out a beastly roar.
Zhao Hao turned around, shone his flashlight, and couldn't help but curse fuck. A crooked tree, about as thick as a man's arm, lumbered toward them, like an ent from the Lord of the Rings. The tree moved incredibly slowly, at about the pace of a tortoise.
But Zhao Hao saw clearly that it was moving. A cold night wind whipped past, and in the harsh glare of the flashlight, the slowly moving tree rustled its leaves with a sound that raised goosebumps.
The scene was unnervingly creepy. Anyone with a weak stomach would have peed their pants on the spot. Zhao Hao, a frequent horror movie watcher, was relatively brave. He charged forward without hesitation. He swung his machete, severing several sharp,
tentacle-like branches. The crooked tree, much like the black vines, emitted a piercing shriek. Zhao Hao transformed into a plant killer, first hacking off the branches and leaves, then aiming for the tree's roots in a frenzy of chopping. Gradually,
the crooked tree stopped screaming, wilting and falling to the ground. At this moment, Dahai suddenly lunged forward. Digging frantically at the ground, Zhao Hao joined in, pulling an entrenching tool from his bag and digging with all his might. Soon,
several vibrant tree roots were exposed. Zhao Hao spotted a small crystal nestled within the roots and ruthlessly extracted it with his Swiss Army knife. Dahai, on the other hand, excitedly grabbed a wriggling root and happily munched on it. Zhao Hao,
feeling a pang of curiosity, cut off a small piece of root and put it in his mouth. Seconds later, he spat it out. The taste was awful, no different from an ordinary root. It simply didn't suit his palate. Gazing into the boundless darkness,
he formed upon this primeval forest. The enormous, towering trees were likely harmless. The smaller plants, seemingly innocuous, posed a far greater, potentially lethal threat. He and Dahai squeezed into a tree hollow as had suspected.
Dahai didn't growl a warning, indicating the place was safe. Zhao Hao breathed a sigh of relief, instructing Dahai to guard the entrance while he held the tree person crystal and practiced the mysterious evolutionary technique. Absorbing the crystal's energy,
Successfully refined a primary primal crystal, gaining one primal gene. 5 hours later, a thought transmission arrived again. Zhao Hao opened his eyes, refreshed, and saw a ray of sunlight filtering into the tree hollow. Dawnhab.
His mood was as bright as the radiant sunlight outside. He saw a glimmer of hope for survival. Chapter 4. The Spring of the Weakling. Who else? I just want to ask. Who else? The next afternoon, Zhao Rishan stood in the howling wind, exuding the air of a lone lead.
Snow-like master, he solidified his title as a plant killer, thanks to Dahai's keen sense of smell. Throughout the day he had managed to kill a flower, a blade of grass and a tree, successfully obtaining 3 evolutionary crystals, besides Zhao Hao.
There's probably no one else who could be so smug about crushing a flower. Finding a safe tree hole, Zhao Hao began an experiment. Refining a single evolutionary crystal took 5 hours, a lengthy and uncontrollably dangerous process.
So he came up with a new hypothesis. Could 3 crystals be refined simultaneously if held in his hands? He held 1 crystal in his left hand and 2 in his right, circulating the E-grade evolution technique. 5 hours later, Zhao opened his eyes.
A flock of 800 plus alpacas thundering through his mind. Successfully refined a primary primitive crystal, gaining 1 point of primitive gene. It turned out he could only refine 1 crystal. The other 2 remained untouched in his hand.
There was no other way. He would have to refine them one by one. On the morning of the 3rd day, the remaining 2 crystals were finally refined. As he studied the changes within himself, he discovered a new world, Evolver. Original genes.
Combat techniques. None. Evolution technique. E-class. This thought, akin to a video game's character panel, genuinely startled Zhao Hao. His lifespan was displayed numerically, a truly baffling phenomenon. Lifespan, 72.
Could it mean his natural lifespan was capped at 72 years? Combat power, 5. So, all this time he was the legendary Battle 5 scum. 5 points of primal genes corresponded to 5 points of combat power.
Could it be that each point of primal gene increased combat power by 1 point? Combat skills. None. What the heck were combat skills? Fighting techniques. Martial arts. Boxing. That sort of thing. Zhao Hao fell into deep thought.
A string of question marks flashing through his mind. The absence of combat skills sounded a silent alarm. He was naturally gifted athletically. He was quite skilled at basketball.
He could also hold his own in a fight, based on his past experience in a few brawls. He could take down 2 or 3 peers. As for martial arts or self-defense technique, he'd never trained in them, and in that respect,
he was no different from the average college student. Could surviving in this evolved world require mastering some sort of supreme martial art? I heard those military suicide squads came in armed, even carrying rocket launchers.
Online posts claim foreign special forces arrived in armored vehicles, even armed helicopters. There's even a story of an African warlord sending in a tank that crashed through the colorful light pillars. No matter how skilled you are in martial arts,
you're still vulnerable to guns and cannons. What good are those fighting techniques then? No, this world has a strange magnetic field. Many instruments are unusable. If a fighter jet tried to enter, it would probably crash instantly.
Whether firearms would even work is questionable. Perhaps those mysterious fighting techniques do have some use after all. In this unknown, evolved world, a lone human experiences endless loneliness. This loneliness is terrifying.
They say there's a torture method involving confining someone in a silent, dark room. Within days, the person goes insane. Zhao Hao is relatively lucky, at least he has Dahai for company. Unable to communicate with anyone,
has unconsciously developed the habit of asking himself questions and answering them. Dahai, let's go! Zhao Hao set off with Dahai, searching for a way out while slaughtering evolved plants. Days later, his primal gene count reached 20 points,
significantly boosting his physical abilities. The bigger change was in the black dog. Having consumed many of the plant's vital essences, Dahai now understands simple commands. From Dahai's large, dark eyes. Zhao Hao sensed an intelligent alertness.
This intelligence clearly surpassed that of a well-trained police dog. Strange. Didn't Bai Dijin's diary mention encountering poisonous birds and a giant wolf? Logically, one should easily encounter birds and beasts in a primeval forest.
Why haven't I seen a single wild animal? Zhao Hao sat on the ground, utterly perplexed. Next, he faced an even more serious problem. Despite his frugality, the 6 bottles of mineral water in his backpack were gone. He hadn't found a water source yet.
And his body reeked so badly he could barely stand it himself. Dahai! Water! That's it, can you find some? Zhao Hao held up his empty water bottle, mimicking a drinking motion. Heaven must have heard my plea, this time.
Responding with a gesture indicating he would lead the way, Zhao Hao was overjoyed and ran wildly after Dahai. Half a day later, he heard the sound of flowing water. The tinkling sound was like heavenly music to Zhao Hao's ears.
A small mountain stream appeared ahead, winding its way, disappearing into the unknown. Zhao Hao rushed to the stream, his joy overwhelming. The survival instincts honed by days of peril kept a sliver of reason in the face of such temptation.
He resisted the urge to drink his fill and asked, Dahai, is this water safe to drink? Dahai lay down by the water's edge, its nose twitching as it sniffed, then extended its tongue to lick the surface. Immediately afterward, it began to drink deep.
Zhao Hao breathed a sigh of relief, filling an empty bottle with water and drinking heartily. After drinking 2 bottles of spring water, he finally quenched his thirst, filling all 6 of his remaining plastic bottles. Come on, let's be happy. Let's revel.
He was definitely feeling good, shedding his clothes and splashing about in the spring water. Bai Dijin's shampoo and soap proved unexpectedly useful at that moment. After a good half-hour's wash, Zhao Hao felt refreshed and began to believe in love again.
A radiant smile spread across his face, as if had welcomed the spring of his life. He changed into a fresh pair of underpants, then squatted by the spring, cleaning his foul, smelling old clothes and scrubbing his basketball shoes.
After an unknown amount of time, a thermal undershirt, a sporty winter outfit, and a bright red pair of underwear were seen hanging from a nearby old tree. Bai Dijin's sportswear fit him perfectly. Zhao Hao felt completely renewed.
He had no idea how long he would be stuck in the primeval forest. If he couldn't get out for several years, those 3 sets of clothes would likely wear out. Oh! A sudden wolf's howl shattered the forest tranquility. The wolf was enormous, the size of a horse.
Crimson light gleamed in the silver wolf's eyes. Its hind leg was badly injured, and it limped as it ran. Even so, its speed was astonishing. In a few leaps, it reached the spring roar. After its evolution,
Big Black rarely barked. It increasingly preferred the roars of a wild beast. It growled low, meeting the silver giant wolf with a fighting spirit. Without a doubt, this giant wolf was the culprit who devoured Bai Dijin.
Zhao Hao felt a strong urge to avenge his fellow human, a surge of killing intent rising in his heart as he charged forward, wielding the 18-inch cleaver. Chapter 5 Mad Battle Blade Technique. Strangely, the giant wolf was focused on Big Black,
seemingly ignoring Zhao Hao completely. Zhao Hao was happy to let it be, while the 2 beasts clashed head-on. He seized an opportunity and slashed at the giant wolf's back, based on his knowledge gleaned from novels.
Wolves had strong heads and tails but weak midsections. This strike should be incredibly effective. Dang! A sharp clang like hitting iron echoed. Zhao Hao felt a sharp pain in his tiger's mouth, and the cleaver nearly slipped from his grasp.
A notch appeared on the sturdy 18-inch cleaver. Only faint bloodstains appeared on the giant wolf's back. They looked like nothing more than superficial wounds. Zhao Hao felt 1,000 alpacas stampeding through his heart.
The tropes from novels were completely useless. Oh! The injured giant wolf, enraged by the pain, turned and lunged at Zhao Hao. At that moment, Zhao Hao activated his hidden talent. Few people knew that Zhou Rishan, a swingman,
was best at the point guard position, also known as the playmaker. An excellent point guard often possesses exceptional vision, able to keep an eye on everything during intense matches, making correct judgments and turning the tide of battle at crucial moments.
Zhao Hao executed a feint, then swiftly stabbed the injured hind leg of the giant wolf with his 18-inch blade. Ow! Woo! The giant wolf let out a heart-wrenching cry, its body abruptly freezing.
Convulsing and trembling uncontrollably, seizing the opportunity, Dahai bit down on the giant wolf's neck, forcing the silver wolf to the ground. Zhao Hao didn't idle either, using all his strength to plunge his knife into the wolf's soft belly.
He stirred the mixture violently, then pulled out his knife and ran. His split-second reaction proved incredibly wise. Roar! The giant wolf's howl morphed into a bloodthirsty roar, its body erupting with supernatural strength as it flung the large black dog,
which had its neck in its jaws, several meters away. The enraged wolf glared at Zhao Hao 10 meters away and relentlessly pursued him. Its abdomen was gushing blood. After running 7 or 8 meters, its intestines spilled out, a gruesome sight.
The large black dog lunged again, seizing one of the wolf's intestines, dragging on the ground and pulling it forcefully backward. In the blink of an eye, 5 meters of intestine had been dragged out before snapping with a sickening sound.
The wolf howled in agony, rolling on the ground. A whirlwind of sand and dust erupted nearby as the wolf's thrashing carved a large pit in the ground by the spring, the seeping water staining a shocking crimson, even in its death throes.
The wolf possessed terrifying power. The large black dog was sent flying with a single swipe of its paw. Big Black, stop. Zhou remained a distance away, watching and calling out to restrain Big Black, who was about to attack the giant wolf again.
Hearing his master's command, Big Black lay down a few meters away, ready to pounce at any moment. The giant wolf howled for over half an hour, its voice gradually weakening as the blood from its abdomen slowly drained away.
Only then did Zhou approach and deliver a few more decisive blows. The moment the giant wolf breathed its last, an incredible sight unfolded. A semi-transparent object floated out from the wolf's head, eerily suspended in mid.
The semi-transparent object resembled a thin booklet, its cover adorned with a strangely shaped war blade. Zhao Hao, acting on instinct, reached out and grabbed it. The semi-transparent book immediately slipped into his palm, instantly.
He possessed a strange new ability of inner vision. Discovering the book floating within his consciousness, it radiated an aura of immense slaughter, mirroring the violent killing intent of the silver giant wolf. The moment Zhao Ha's thoughts touched the book.
Violently, acquire evolution combat skill, fuse. Yes, the instant Zhao Hao made his decision, the small book in his consciousness shattered, transforming into countless points of light that merged into his body.
Successfully fused combat skill. Mad Warrior Blade Technique. Warrior Blade Technique. E-grade combat skill evolvable. Current evolution energy Yo100. Zhao Hao entered a mysterious state, wielding the 18 cuts.
Naturally performing a set of swordsmanship. The swordsmanship was ferocious and domineering, each move exquisitely precise, erupting with overwhelming battle intent. At this moment, if an outsider were to observe from the side,
no one would think Zhou Hao was an unskilled novice in martial arts. Anyone witnessing this scene would believe him to be a master swordsman. The swordsmanship he displayed even evoked a sense of déjà vu, reminiscent of Hudo and Fu Hongxiu from Wuxia film.
Once, twice, thrice, with continuous practice, Zhao Ha's swordsmanship became increasingly refined. Dahai retreated 30 meters away, cowering on the ground, gazing fearfully at the violently powerful Zhao Hao. After the third round of sword practice,
Zhao Hao emerged from that mystical state. Killing the beast actually dropped a fighting technique. This like a skill book dropping in an online game, Zhao Hao muttered to himself, his expression strange.
He had deep questions about this mysterious evolutionary world. Steeling his nerves, he dragged the giant wolf's corpse out of the waterlogged pit. With great effort, Zhao Hao dug a silver, white crystal the size of an egg from the wolf's head.
It should be incredibly powerful, right? Zhao Hao was overjoyed. Just as he was about to put away the giant wolf crystal, Dahai trotted over happily. Dahai kept rubbing against Zhao Hao's trouser leg,
wagging its tail and wriggling its butt in a fawning manner, its eyes fixed on the crystal in Zhao Hao's hand. From Dahai's increasingly human-like eyes. "Do you want this?" Zhao Hao asked. Woof woofed. Dahai nodded quickly.
"Take it." Hearing Zhou Hao's voice, Dahai swallowed the silver white crystal in one gulp. Bang! A muffled thud echoed as Dahai collapsed to the ground. Seemingly unconscious, Zhou Hao was startled.
He instinctively reached out to check on Dahai. Bang! Another muffled thud. An invisible force knocked Zhao Hao back, sending him sprawling. His teeth gritted in pain. From Dahai he sensed a ferocious and powerful aura, very similar to that of a giant wolf.
Could this be the way animals evolve? Zhou Hao recalled what was written in Bedejan's diary, beasts devouring other beasts to gain strength. Before me, Dahai seemed to be refining the giant wolf's crystal. However,
animals refine things differently than humans, it's more like digestion. Noticing Dahai's normal breathing, Zhao Hao felt relieved and set about processing the silver wolf's corpse. The biscuits and canned food in his backpack would last at most half a month.
Zhao Hao had long planned to store food. He decided to save those long-lasting rations for emergencies. For now, he'd just roast the beast meat to fill his belly. The dead giant wolf's body strength was significantly reduced,
allowing Zhao Hao to complete his first ever animal dissection. Imitating scenes from movies, he fashioned a simple barbecue grill from branches, gathered some kindling nearby to start a fire, took out salt, chicken essence,
and other seasonings from a metal box and began his first BBQ in the evolutionary world.
The audiobook for chapters 1 to 5 of this issue has concluded. Subscribe to this channel, turn on the notification bell, share, and leave your comments. I will continue to update subsequent content.